Take two. Last time I tried to make this video, I made a problem of putting my picture here, which I discovered after I made the whole video, and I have to remake it because you do not see the settings for this video. Okay, welcome to a new small video. In this video I'm gonna talk a little bit about tree supports and the fact that, like in this picture here, I'm trying to use PETG as a support interface to easily remove the supports, but as you can tell from the purge tower, there are no actual support interfaces here, because you can see there's white there and there's white there, and white here is the PETG. So basically it's not putting, you can see here on top there is no support interface on the top of the tree supports. So this video I will show you how you can put it there and why you should not put it there. So basically the tree supports up here at the top, they have a certain diameter, and it goes without saying they need to have a certain diameter to be able to support the structure above. When you print with just one filament, it's not really a problem because it will just bridge over it. But when you're gonna use a support interface where use a different filament to be able to easily remove the supports, then you have a sort of a problem. And in this case, I have, you can see here, I have selected PLA as the support structure, and I have selected PETG as the support interface, and I have 3 top layers and 3 bottom layers for it. And I set top spacing to 0 and bottom spacing to 0. And I want to use one raft because I want to be able to easily remove it. So let's go and see on the raft. The raft looks like this. So that's the raft. That's white. That's the supporting underside of the PETG. And you can tell everything else here is pre-layout for the tree supports. So when we build up this, you will see you get the, let's see, so here you see on layer 1, that's the raft, which is white, and then you start getting the black here. That's the first part of the model itself, and then it starts printing, and here you see you have support interfaces, because the size of the supports is there, and you can see that it's building the model on top of the support interfaces. And I have 20 filament change times, as you can see up here, and all of those filament changes are at the bottom. So you can see here, if you count the layers, you get to layer 18, so almost all of them. Let me see. The layer 16 is the last one. You can see here there's a change here, so 16, and then it's only printing PLA after that. And then you can see it's building the support structures for the 3 supports, and as you get towards the place where it's supposed to support, it will get narrower and narrower and narrower. And in some cases you can see that it's all like here is already supporting, but it's not giving any interface layers for the supports, as you can see. And now it's done with all the 3 supports. There's still no interface layers. So what has happened here is that it has printed the bottom parts with PETG supports, but it hasn't printed the top ones. But it does get to the top here. And if you can go down a little bit so we see exactly where you have one there. That's a tiny nudge of PETG. And another one, and another one. So that's 3 layers. And then it prints on top. If you consider how much filament would have to be wasted to print those small nudges of PETG, I would rather, in my case, just not use supports there. There's also a little bit here on those layers. There, and there. And then there's nothing. And that is all that is there to print. And to get to that point, it would have to waste all this black filament and all this PETG filament just to be able to print those 3 layers of small nudges there. Now, the main problem I wanted to address in this is because in some cases you want to put an interface layer on top of a tree support. And you have this problem here. So how do you do it? Well, there is a setting in Orca Slicer / Bambu Slicer which is called tree supports. Sorry. Is under the tree support. Under support. And then you need to have selected tree, blah blah blah. Okay. And then at the bottom you have tree supports, and then you have something called tip diameter. And then it refers to the topmost tip of the tree support. And if you hold over, it says branch tip diameter for organic supports. That means that this value identifies as the minimum value that a tree support on the tip need to have to be able to add an interface layers. Otherwise, it would just print straight on it. In this case, every single of these supporting structures, even on the back here, everything here is below this value in the diameter of the tip, which means that it will not create a top interface layer with PETG. So let's just say I want to reduce this to make it print. So I set it to 1.2. Then you get an error. Organic support tree diameter must not be smaller than the support material extrusion width. Okay, so let's go to quality and we check how big is the extrusion value of the width of the support material. You can find that here under quality and support, and you see it's set to 0.42. So if I take that value and I go back to support and I replace that value with 0.42, the error goes away. What happens if you slice it again? Remember, we had 20 filament changes before. Now I have 44 filament changes, you can see here. And you can also see that there have been written some interfaces. And you can also see on the perch tower there have been written interfaces. So let's go down a bit into the model and just analyze this a bit. So let's say we are looking at the model and we'll just go up layer by layer. There's the first layer. Where is the PETG on this? It's there. Exactly there. And is there more? Seems to be a little bit there. Okay, then you get a black one on the same level, line above. And then you get another one. Where is that? The small nudge there. A little bit here. Maybe that's a seam. There's a little bit more here. And there's a small tiny nudge there. and then it's just black, and then it becomes here tiny support interfaces here and there, and a little bit there again. And you can see in this area here there is like just a little bit support interfaces painted, and here. So imagine that you're printing, and it's for every single layer there, it's flushing, it's printing to the purge tower, it's wasting a lot of filament just for these tiny small pieces, which may actually not hold any kind of relevant function when it comes to removing the filament. Now, the big thing here is that we have reduced the size that should be used for filament interface. So we have reduced that and said that if the tree support tip is above 0.42 millimeters, you should print interface layers. That's what you do with this setting here. But you can increase that a little bit. Have to remember that you can reduce this below 0.4. So let's say I set it to 0.3. And it's not, you see, it cannot be smaller than the extrusion width. But you can also change the extrusion width to smaller than that, 3. So if I set that to 3, the error goes away. What you have to remember is that, imagine you have a chewing gum, and the chewing gum has a fixed diameter when you pull it out. If you're reducing the extrusion width, what you're doing is you're stretching that piece of chewing gum so that it should be more or less accurate. On a FDM printer, what happens is that it lowers the pressure, so that and at the same time it keeps extruding, so that it's less pressure and it's extruding, so the width of the line becomes smaller. When you reduce the width of the support, you can see here that I get 58 filament changes, and you can also tell that there's more filament changes per here. So let's go and analyze a bit. So it's there. If you see, imagine, just check the model is here and there mostly, and it keeps building, and then it's finished, and then it goes a little bit more, and it has just a small nudge there, here and there, and it continues to go up. There's a few places here and there, and it continues to go up again. It's not printing much PETG to work as interface. Then it just continues up, and then at the end you get interfaces here, and you get the interface there. So you're wasting a lot of filament to cover interface layers in very small areas. I usually don't put my line width below 0.4, because if it's 0.4, it would sometimes not look good on print, because you're using a 0.4 nozzle and you're trying to force the width to less than the nozzle width. But there is so my recommendation is, if you're using tree supports, unless you're supporting something that is really wide and you have a really big tip of the tree support, then I would not use an interface layer using a different filament type like PETG, because it would just be a lot of wasted filament to get and just go and then it's finished. It's no point. Just remove that with a file, afterwards, and it's a lot less wasted filament. Now, the other part of this video, the original video I made, I actually had to make a sub video because I forgot about it, but now I'm going to do it. So I've reset the tip diameter 0.8, and I'll reset this one to what it originally was. Okay, so I'll slice the plate. I'll show you what I mean in the second part. So you can tell here that there is no, because the diameter of the tip of the support is so small, it's not using interface layers. Perfectly fine, but why is it doing this? It's because these small areas on top of this tree support is actually above 0.8, like here. It's above 0.8 millimeters in diameter. Hence, it will waste filament to get to the top to print those support interfaces. There, you can see, it's support interfaces, and it will do that for 3 layers. And then it's finished. And for doing that, you wasted all this black filament just to get to the top, and you lost a lot of filament in the purging between the filaments. And so how can you prevent this from actually printing interface layers? So the first one was, how do you enable interface layers on top of the tree support, and the second one is, how do you remove the interface layers so that it doesn't print interface layers. And we go down to the setting here, and basically you have to increase this to say, I want a bigger reference value to be used for the tip of the tree support. So if I set it to 90, for instance, 90, and I slice it, it will still not be enough. In my case, I know that those tree supports are roughly 95. So if I set this to 95, you can see I'm still getting the supports. If I set this value to 0.95, this is a good way of measuring how big is the tip of the tree supports in the area. 0.95, it's there. If you want to be really nitpicky, maybe you can go 0.955 and slice it again. But in that case, you could have just written 9.6. Now you see that it's dropped down. It's no longer printing the perch tower past a few other supports here. In this case, I could have just said a 9.6 to have it above that. And it's no longer printing support interface layers at the top. And you are basically saving all the filament you would have wasted in the perch tower, and you're saving all the filament you would have wasted in those 3 filament changes, actually 6. So it's 3 layers of PET G, so change 2 and then 3 layers to change back, so it's 6 purges of filament and printing to the perch tower, flushing of filament, sorry. So by adjusting this value here on the tree supports tip diameter, you can basically say, I don't want to print any supports except raft and where the diameter of the support equals this or higher. And then you can print something like this with using support at the bottom, but basically not using support for the tiny trees, which you can just use a file to remove afterwards. So I hope this was a very helpful video for how you can adjust the settings in your slicer when you are using PETG, PLA, or how other types of filament, like I think ABS or something like that, but polyester works as well. But anyway, it's just to show you that you can actually get around some problems like this with and save a lot of wasted filaments on your print. Not to mention time. Printing a perch tower like this takes a lot of time, and doing the filament changes takes a lot of time. Let's see how much time you saved. It's now it's model printing time 4 hours and 58 minutes, 5 hours and 7 minutes total time. Let's bring that down to 5 and see how much time we saved on the print. Yeah, more than an hour. So now it's model printing time is now 6 hours and 15 minutes, and then total time is 6 hours and 24 minutes. So yeah, you save time as well. So please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.